How much longer will this united front of the players' union stay united as bills pile up, as cars get repossessed, as they begin to get kicked out of their apartment complexes? How much longer until the 10th, 11th woman on the roster, the ones who make eight?
That's the question keeping WNBA executives up at night. Because right now, the Players' Union is presenting a united front. 97% voted to authorize a strike. On the surface, that looks overwhelming. But behind closed doors, there's a ticking time bomb. Nearly 2/3 of the league's players aren't in unrivaled. They're not earning $220,000 for 8 weeks of work. They're sitting at home watching their bank accounts drain, while the stars remain financially comfortable. That gap matters, and it's growing by the day.
This is an article by the Sports Business Journal. Talks between the WNBA and Players Association have stalled, and the union's, quote, upper hand at the bargaining table is slipping as soon as the players will be faced with the question of how long they can hold out, according to Adam Minter of Bloomberg News. It is a necessary but dispiriting thought, considering that the leverage was
Sports Business Journal just published something that should seriously alarm the Players Association. Their reporting lays out exactly what's happening, and it isn't encouraging. The union's leverage is slipping fast. Here's what most people don't understand about these negotiations. Caitlin Clark's arrival gave WNBA players real leverage for the first time in league history. Record ratings, sold-out arenas, massive media attention, a meaningful TV deal. But leverage has an expiration date. And right now, we're watching that clock run down in real time.
Earned, we mean Caitlin Clark showed up and they suddenly had some leverage in their pocket. Publicly, the Players Association is presenting a united front, but the outward appearance masks a complex private reality. Many players can't afford to wait indefinitely. Unrivaled provides a lens for understanding the divide. This season, 54 top WNBA hoopers, about a third of the WNBA's active rosters in 2025, are participating in Unrivaled. For them, Unrivaled and its big paychecks of roughly $220,000 for an 8-week season are a nice cushion.
Let's talk about the math. In 2025, about 54 top WNBA players, roughly 1/3 of active rosters, are playing in Unrivaled. They're making around $220,000 for 8 weeks. That's a serious financial cushion when negotiations drag on. But what about the other 100 players? The ones making $80,000 base salaries, the role players, the benchwarmers, the 11th and 12th women on the roster. They don't have endorsement deals. They don't have unrivaled contracts. They're the ones who feel the financial pressure first.
They're going to dry up on their savings, aka they're going to need money, aka they got bills. A WNBA lockout or strike also poses economical risks for the WNBA. The league is in a much stronger financial position than its players to withstand a protracted delay or cancellation. Well, no shit. Pardon my language. Duh. Now, Natasha Cloud actually spoke about this before, and we've talked about this, that the players in Unrivaled, they don't really care about the other 100.
And this is where things get uncomfortable. Natasha Cloud has talked openly about this dynamic before. And let's be honest, many players in Unrivaled don't really feel the consequences of a lockout. If there's a work stoppage, they'll be fine. They'll extend the Unrivaled season. They'll make more money. They'll keep playing basketball. Everything stays comfortable for them. Meanwhile, role players are dealing with a completely different reality. Bills stacking up, car payments due, rent checks bouncing. At some point, that 97% unity starts to crack.
Want to get paid all the money that they feel that they missed during the NIL era. That's what a lot of this is, along with ego. A lot of this is players that missed the NIL era, sees Caitlin Clark. They don't want to admit it, but she's the dollar signs here. And they say, well, this is our only chance, really. This is our only chance that we're going to be able to cash in.
A lot of this comes down to ego and missed opportunity. Many veteran players missed the NIL era entirely. They watched college athletes start earning millions while they were grinding overseas for $70,000 a year. Then Caitlin Clark arrives, and suddenly real money finally starts flowing into the league. This feels like their moment. Maybe their only moment.
So they're swinging big.
30% of gross revenue. A $10.5 million salary cap. The problem is, they might be overplaying their hand.
WNBA could be weeks away from delaying season. Despite releasing the schedule earlier this week, the WNBA likely needs to agree to a CBA by February to start the season on time. The WNBA wants everybody to believe the 2026 season will tip off on May 8th. It asserted as much with an announcement of a 44-game slate and a statement that explained in part the move was to allow, quote, essential planning to begin. The reality of where collective bargaining agreement negotiations stands paint a different...
The league's latest proposal actually isn't bad. A maximum salary of $1 million, rising to more than $1.3 million with revenue sharing. Roughly 70% of net revenue over the life of the deal. A salary cap starting at $5 million in year one and growing with league revenue. That's a massive increase from current numbers. But the union wants more. They want compensation based on gross revenue, not net. And that distinction matters. It's a fundamental difference that could cost the league hundreds of millions of dollars.
They'll get the point and send us something better. But remember, Breanna Stewart yesterday said, oh, they're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. How can you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you liar? In that proposal, the union is seeking a 30% share of the league's gross revenue and a salary cap of $10.5 million. The league's latest proposal includes a max base salary of $1 million, which would increase to more than $1.3 with revenue share. The league's proposing roughly 70% of its net revenue over the span of the deal. The salary cap would be at $5 million in year one and would grow in tandem with the...
Now, let's talk about what's really at stake. According to reporting from Annie Costabile, the WNBA could be just weeks away from delaying the season. Despite releasing the schedule this week, 44 games starting May 8th, the reality behind closed doors tells a different story. As of January 23rd, the Players' Union was still waiting for a response from a proposal they sent nearly a month earlier, before Christmas. They went through the holidays. They went through New Year's. And here we are in late January with radio silence from the league.
For free agency would be early March, and that's if the ink dries on a new CBA by early February, giving the WNBA the rest of the month to plan and conduct an expansion draft. Multiple league sources believe the best case scenario would be early March, given the ink dries by early February. We are about 2 weeks away from early February. February is in 7 days, 8 days. 2 weeks, we're sitting what, February 5th, February 6th? They need to get a deal soon before we start pushing the schedule back.
This is where Breanna Stewart's recent comments start to sound questionable. She said, they're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But how can you see light at the end of the tunnel when the league hasn't responded to your proposal in over a month? That's not progress. That's a stalemate. Meanwhile, general managers are still in the dark about expansion draft rules. Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire can't plan their rosters without a CBA. The proposed core designation, similar to the NBA's franchise tag, is still being negotiated and could drastically affect which players are available. Everything is frozen.
However, in the middle of free agency, front offices will also be preparing for the 2026 WNBA draft, currently held April 13th. The league has never lost games to a work stoppage in its 29-year history. The next 2 weeks will be an indicator of whether its 30th season will be the first time it does. If the deal doesn't get done soon, might not be a lockout, it might not be a strike, but at the bare minimum, they're going to need to delay the season or start chopping some games off. Instead of a 44 game, it'll be a 38 game. They missed the first 6 games because they push it back 2 weeks. They mixed the first 10 games because they push it back a month.
Multiple league sources believe the absolute best case scenario for free agency would be early March, and that only happens if a new CBA is finalized by early February. We're 7 days away from February. That leaves maybe 2 weeks to reach a deal, finalize language, and get signatures. Then they'd need the rest of February just to plan and conduct an expansion draft. In a normal year, free agency starts in early January and wraps up by early February. Training camp is scheduled for April 19th. The draft is April 13th. Everything is backing up.